and welcome to the final episode of Hashtag Hear Her Story, the WAG's International Day of Girl podcast. I'm Anjali, a WAG's global volunteer from Malaysia, and your host for today. Before we welcome our guests for today's episode, let me take you through a little background of the Hashtag Hear Her Story podcast. This podcast has been developed to complement Hashtag Write Her Story, the WAG's activity pack for the International Day of Girl 2021. The activity pack takes you through finding the cause you care about, planning an advocacy campaign, and then delivering it. This project was originally recorded in English with our guest, and then translated into Arabic, Spanish, and French by our translation teams. Remember to listen to the end of this podcast where we will set you a social media challenge. We have saved the best for last, so stay tuned. And we are really excited to see what you guys have to share with us this time around. Our guest for today has experience of working alongside another organization to deliver an advocacy project. As an African proverb once said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think the statement has never been truer, especially when doing advocacy and making your voice heard. So without further ado, let's begin. In this episode of Hashtag Hear Her Story, we're joined by Sophie Nelson. Sophie is a girl guide from the UK and an active gender equality, mental health, and period poverty advocate in her country. She is also an advocacy champion of WAGs and has recently represented WAGs at the CSW 65 seating. I am sure you are as excited as I am to welcome her to our podcast and hear her story. Hello, Sophie. Welcome to the podcast. Really happy to have you with us. I believe our listeners would love to hear more about you. Could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Of course. So, hi, everyone. I'm Sophie. I am a university student studying in Manchester. I study history and politics. Really, my decision to take these subjects was hugely influenced by Girl Guiding. Previously, a couple of years ago, I was a Girl Guiding advocate, where I had experience of campaigning, working in policy, talking with MPs and members of the cabinet, which kind of inspired me to study politics at university. Other than politics and my degree, the end of my time in the advocate panel really led me to take up a role as an advocacy champion for WAGs. And that's where I joined the policy team in our virtual advocacy journey. So I was meant to be participating in last year's CSW, which was in the UN headquarters in New York, and I was so sad that I didn't get to go. But this year has been brilliant, and our main task was really to look at this year's priority theme, which was women in public life, and the review theme was end violence, which of course falls perfectly under WAG's Stop the Violence campaign. So as I worked on this with other advocacy champions as well as representatives from the British government, that connection with advocate, but also being exposed to the politics within my own UK region really allowed me to have impact and influence, which was really exciting. So one of the things I got to do was I got to speak on the UN Interactive Dialogue on Violence Against Women and actually represent the UK government. So that was super exciting and an opportunity that I would have never got if I wasn't part of the WAG's Advocacy Champion Forum. But currently within Girl Guiding, my work lies in inclusion and diversity. So in June this year, I took up a role as inclusion advisor for Girl Guiding UK. And it's really following the publishing of our audit, which told us that so many girls and young women, staff, volunteers and parents as well, didn't feel that Girl Guiding was as inclusive as it could be. So that is my job currently with about 9 other inclusion officers, and we are working to make Girl Guiding more inclusive. So watch this space, and yeah, I hope that we can listen and do our job quite well in the coming months.
Wow, that's really inspiring to hear your advocacy journey and the impact you've been creating. I just wanted to ask, as a young woman advocate, what does advocacy mean to you?
Yeah, so to me, advocacy is about giving people who are underrepresented a voice. I see my job as an advocate being twofold. So firstly, it's so important to listen, and then after you listen, you need to make noise. And I think it's so important to keep in mind when you're representing specific groups, especially marginalised groups, not to take up their space. So to represent in a way that empowers people to do the same, instead of representing in a way where you're never pulling anyone else up with you, that actually you're representing in order to favour yourself rather than anyone else. But that's why the role of listening is so important, because you need to listen to understand the issues. And I think advocacy is so important because it is about value, and it's so important in the age of Brexit, where we see so much division in our communities now, that actually it's about having that kind of equal value and bringing equal value to communities rather than division. It's also an amazing opportunity to be an advocate, because you become a community of like-minded people. So as an advocate, your values are at the forefront of what you do. And so other people who share the same values are often drawn to your space. And that's really special, because not only am I trying to empower other people through advocacy, but being around like-minded people also empowers me to speak out and demand better. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to speak out about something you're passionate about, because you attract other people to do the same, and thus you're empowering a whole chain of people.
I completely agree with you. It's kind of like what I like to tell my girls, it's a domino effect. Empowering one person, kind of, the domino falls and you kind of end up empowering a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really incredible to see, how that one thing in common that all of us have, girl guiding, it provides us that space to advocate for ourselves and for others. In my personal experience, as well, I feel like guiding has empowered me to raise my own voice. And it's also encouraged me to tell people and show people how to raise their own voice in their surroundings. So another follow-up question I had for you, Sophie, is that how has your voice and advocacy changed the way that you give others a voice?
So I think it's encouraged me to really listen first. So many times when I saw injustice, I just wanted to, my kind of human reaction was to tackle it there and then. And that's brilliant, because it shows that, I want to do something about this. I want to solve an issue. But I think in order to make the most impact, you have to be patient enough to listen to the needs and experiences of the people you're representing. And I think one of the most important ways to give other people a voice is the very act of encouraging others to tell their story and respecting their experience. By doing that, you empower them to own their own story, and you give them the agency to be able to be more confident about it and to share it in their own special way. And so when people know that their story is powerful and that people want to listen to it, they're more likely to speak out about it, and they're more likely to use their voice. It's also just really useful, I think, to hear what other people think. And sometimes if you're wanting to start an advocacy campaign, or you're looking to challenge an issue, you come out with a completely different view after speaking to people who have experienced it as well. Sometimes you see that it's not actually as big an issue as you thought it was. Sometimes you realize that there are mechanisms in place in order to champion the issue already, that these are the charities that are already working on the issue, or some people feel like it's actually, you come away and you're like, wow, we're all thinking the same thing here. Why has nobody not touched on this before? But yeah, having the evidence of people's experiences also, helps convince decision makers that it is a real problem, and that you are speaking out about something that actually matters, and that there is a gap in the market for it, and that people want to listen.
That's actually really, really interesting and a really, really good point, Sophie. I love how you emphasize that it's really important to listen to people before representing them, and sometimes you should also be careful not to take their spaces while representing them. Sophie, you have represented your member organization as well as WAGs at various advocacy spaces. How has your experience been so far as a young woman? And what challenges have you faced? And how did you overcome these challenges?
So you mentioned that I was a young woman, and I think with that comes challenge in itself, especially when you take your advocacy outside of your kind of echo chamber of supporters, because actually you start to face criticism. And I remember the first time that I did face criticism, I didn't know really what to do with it. I was speaking at I was speaking in an education conference in Belfast, where I live, and I had a slideshow presentation up on the screen, and on the slideshow there was a picture of a sanitary pad, and there was a little tube of blue liquid being poured onto the sanitary pad. And I said, this is one of my pet peeves on adverts, that period product companies think that they can, use this blue liquid, and it's this mysterious blue liquid. Why don't they just put blood on and reduce the stigma and show, actually, let's not be afraid of menstruation, and let's all have a conversation about it. And one woman spoke up and said that she just thought it was vile and that she thought it was disgusting. And I was so frustrated, because it made me think, why, first of all, why is she not seeing it from my perspective? But also, I've given up my time to be here today. I'm just a young person. I'm a young person who is clearly trying to challenge an issue of period poverty in my own community. And you're hitting me with this criticism. You're a female, you're meant to be an ally. And I struggled with that. But the best thing to do, I think, is just accept that sometimes, you're going to face criticism. Not everyone's going to agree with you. That's actually a good thing, because it would be a boring world if everyone agreed with you. And have the confidence, to walk into a room and feel like, you deserve to be there, not because you're the most qualified person in the room, or because you're the oldest, or because you have the most academic mind, but actually because when you were born, you have that right. And actually, no matter who you are, if you walk into a room, you deserve to be there. And yeah, I've often struggled in spaces where with different decision makers, just because I feel like I lack expertise and that I am younger. You feel like you're annoying people sometimes when you have to keep on badgering them to listen to you, but actually it shows determination and it shows motivation, and sometimes you've just got to keep trying and trying and trying. And yeah, you're not always going to be listened to, but I think that if you have confidence about it, that's the key.
I totally agree with you. And I think what you said about criticism, accepting criticism, is something very hard for one to accept, because no one likes to be told that, hey, I don't agree with you. So I think, especially in your advocacy journey, that being able to use that even if you look back at the leadership mindset, using that Wally mindset, the collaborative mindset, you always look about collaborating with people. So I think criticism falls a lot under that as well. So I completely agree with like what you had to say about that. And again, you emphasize on listening. I think this comes hand in hand with criticism, because you need to be open to listening to accept your criticism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And I feel what you said, that being a young woman, it's sometimes really hard to get our voices heard. But being confident in what you said, it truly makes a change. And I think it also goes back to the stigma about us being young and our voices are not heard. It goes back to the stigma that you know the older you are, the wiser you are. But I don't think that's true. I think no matter how old you are, you can be equally as wise. So I think we should all we shouldn't take our age into consideration when we go to these spaces. I think we should just be brave and be true to who we are, and kind of just own that space and be ourselves.
Definitely.
So you mentioned in the start of this that you're part of a peer poverty campaign. So what inspired you to actually be part of this campaign?
So yeah, I think it was in 2017 actually, that as a group of advocates, when I joined the advocate panel with Girlguiding UK, we had like a WhatsApp group chat, and we were always like posting articles that were relevant to gender equality. Quite a few of the articles wouldn't have just been solely constricted to the UK, but this one was, and it was titled "1 in 10 Girls Missing School Because of Period Poverty." And the article went on to mention how some girls were using socks, some girls were actually tying newspapers instead of using sanitary products in their pants when they were menstruating. Yeah, so like really poverty on our doorstep that so many of us, including myself, were just not aware of and actually didn't have to think about, because I always thought period products should have been provided in school, but I never thought that it could have been a barrier to education. So we got together as a group, all deciding that, this was something that we could maybe do something about as young women. And yeah, a couple of months later, we birthed Girlguiding's period poverty campaign. I don't think it would have happened if it wasn't for the Girlguiding staff that allowed us to start this campaign. They were so on board, they were so supportive. At the end of the day, we were, all coming into it with a passion, but they matched our passion for it, and they put in the hard work behind the scenes. So proud to all the staff at Girlguiding. They really were all so supportive, and it was amazing. It wasn't always plain sailing, and we did face a lot of challenges. I think we were really lucky in the fact that there were already campaigners doing the work. So Amika George was an amazing founder of the period poverty campaign, and we owe it to groups of women like that who really pushed the issue and got their voices out there before we did. And yeah, I like to think, we talked to MPs about it. We protested outside Downing Street. I like to think we had some contribution to the final decision, which was, of course, that period products were made available to all schoolgirls, which was an amazing achievement.
I think it's really important, because it's really sad to see, even where I live, that period poverty literally is at our doorstep as well here. It's girls do miss school. Like I remember in school, like my friends used to miss school, and it's just because they were on their period, and parents wouldn't let them come to school. So it's really, really, I'm really happy to hear about this cause, and I'm really glad to hear about how all this came, this campaign came about. And no campaign has, every campaign has its flaws, and we're gonna have its up and down. But I think that's what makes it special, and that's what makes it that's what toughens us, especially throughout this campaign, throughout the campaigns. So could you tell us a bit more like what happened through the Girl Guide UK's period poverty campaign, and also would this pack be available readily available online on the Girl Guiding UK website?
Yeah, so there are resources available on the Girlguiding website. And we also have a period poverty badge, which is really exciting. So you can do activities to you can do activities to complete the period poverty badge.
Better order myself one.
Better order, yeah, 100%. They actually are really nice. I think I actually helped. Yeah, I helped design them. So the little tampon, I think, is mine on the badge, which is really special.
Keep an eye out for yours, Sophie.
Yeah. No one forget that. But yeah, what really happened throughout the campaign? We set up the campaign, as I said, with the help of the Girlguiding staff. And what we sat down as a group and kind of discussed what we wanted to be part of the campaign, what would work, what didn't. So we have the discussion, for example, that should we campaign for free period products to be available to everyone. We thought we would start kind of small in size schools, just because we thought it was a more realistic goal at the time. Now, of course, ideally they would be available to everyone, all menstruating people, and that, is hopefully going to be the case one day. But, if we were to go in and tell decision makers this is what we want, we would have been more likely to be turned away. And so we started with school people in school. And then our next real thing was that we actually just went out and told a lot of people what we were doing. So we would meet with MPs. As I said before, protesting outside Downing Street. We would go into our Girlguiding units at home and talk about period poverty. And I actually remember the first conversation I had with one of the area that I'm in is called Hollywood. So in Hollywood Guide unit, I remember going in and said to everyone, yes, I'm going to be talking about periods today. We're going to be talking about period poverty, and kind of like the looks in the room. We're just of confusion and kind of lostness.
I can imagine the looks on their faces.
Yeah, just because, and I think that highlighted to me more than anything that, there was a massive stigma there that we still needed to break down. Because, if people who menstruate couldn't even have that conversation within themselves, how are we going to have it with the rest of the nation? And
big taboo.
Yeah, huge taboo. And it's not just confined to the UK. I mean, there's, far greater taboo in so many countries. But yeah, getting people to talk about it at the start was a bit of a challenge. But actually, by the end of the session, and I know this is the case with many sessions that other advocates did, that actually people were far more engaged and more comfortable and able to talk about things. And sometimes it just takes that initial breaking the ice, that initial kind of conversation, like we're going to be talking about periods, for everyone to be like, oh, this is weird. And then as time goes on and as the conversation kind of continues with that the people are more comfortable.
It becomes more natural within them as well.
Definitely, far more natural. And I mean, no one's to blame for that. No girl and girl guiding is to blame for that. It's part of the culture. And it's not anyone's fault if they feel uncomfortable. But the more that we can have the conversation, the better, I think. So yeah, after that, after writing and campaigning and protesting, we began to get more people listening to our voices, and we began to get a bit more success. And then when it was announced that the Chancellor announced it, that he would put money aside in his annual budget, that was, yeah, the big success story that came out of the campaign. Really, that's what we wanted.
I'm so happy to hear that, you had such a good end to your journey. Like not even to an end, like a really good successful story that's come out of your journey throughout this campaign. because every journey, like I said earlier, has its up and downs, and throughout this journey you'll find that there are sometimes that things do not go as you would like. So what advice would you give to anyone thinking of getting involved in either an advocacy or even starting a campaign?
Yeah, so I think it's really normal to feel like you don't know where to start, or if you do start, there's no way that you'll ever succeed because you don't have the expertise or you aren't qualified enough, coming back to what I said earlier. And that is really not true. I still haven't finished my degree. I've never studied, I'm talking about a different subject here, but I've never studied violence against women at any kind of academic level.
Yeah.
But this year I was asked to be the UK government spokesperson on violence against women at the UN. And why?
Sophie. I think everybody listening needs to give Sophie a big round of applause.
Yeah, I never thought these words would come out of my mouth at age 21, but they did. And yeah, it's, as I said, why? Because I had the confidence to say, I know that I'm not the best qualified person in the room. I haven't had loads of experience, but do I know how it feels to walk down the street and be catcalled? Yeah, I do. Have I got friends who have experienced violence from their partners? Absolutely. And do I feel scared for the women who live in fear of leaving abusive relationships? Absolutely. I feel strongly about ending violence against women, and so I can speak about it passionately. And believe me on this one, anyone is interested to listening to you if you are passionate about what you're talking about. So in terms of getting involved, the advice, I would really start off about finding something that really kind of upsets you, frustrates you, annoys you in this messy, messy world. And then start talking about it. Tell your family if you can, tell your friends, tell your peers in school, tell your teachers. And when you do, I think you'll find that you may not feel like the smallest fish in the ocean. I think that actually a lot of people feel passionately about a lot of issues, and to get a group of like-minded people together, I think getting a team is really important. And so get people who are on your team, get people who want to support you, who want to listen. Lean on Girlguiding. If you're involved in Girlguiding, lean on it as an organization. There's so many people who want to help you and support you. And who, the leaders and the volunteers, that's why they're in guiding. They want you to succeed. They want you to have full, active, successful participation in public life. And talk to them about what you're passionate about, and they may just have the perfect opportunity to help you.
Wow, Sophie, that's absolutely incredible. The impact that you've been creating at such a young age. It truly shows you that age is not a barrier. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to ask, how do you find the time to balance between advocacy and your life, like your work life?
Yeah. I don't. No, I'm just kidding. I find it difficult, to be honest, especially when term starts at uni. It's sometimes hard to detach yourself from the issues that you're trying to tackle and getting on with, day-to-day life. They can often, always be at the back of your mind. And I think what puts a lot of people off advocacy is that, we see high-profile activists like Greta Thunberg or Gloria Steinem, and they devote their livelihoods to fighting for a cause. And they become dehumanized. Sometimes as a result, they become known for their cause. And in no way am I comparing the work I do to the work that they do. But I think that it's very possible to have a career separate from your advocacy and still lead a really fulfilling life. And in fact, I think advocacy makes your life even more fulfilling because you get to create a community of like-minded people who share your values and your passion. But one thing I would say is don't be so hard on yourself for not achieving your vision all at once. Progress is slow, it takes time. You're not going to necessarily succeed in your first try, and there will, I will guarantee you, be barriers to progress. But be kind to yourself and remember that the fact that you're taking any action at all is in itself an achievement. We can go out with these big visions and ideas and get really frustrated when we can't pass the first hurdle or when we don't achieve them. But any action at all is an achievement. And I sort of come back to this conference that I was a part of this year. So me and 5 other young leaders from Ulster, which is my region in Girlguiding in Northern Ireland. And we put loads of effort into organising this resilience event, and 3 girls showed up, and we thought it was going to be like a big day with like 50 people, and I was so frustrated and annoyed, and we were all kind of frustrated during the day because there were so few people. But actually all the feedback that we got from those girls were like, it was so inspiring. It was we would 100% like to see these events again. We got so much out of it, and actually it just kind of hit home to me. If you can impact one person in the work that you're doing or in the action that you're taking, your job is done. It doesn't matter if that's a whole room of people. Okay, it's amazing if it is, but if you can change one person's perspective in the room, that is more than anyone can ask. And I think that's what it's all about, seeing those small achievements. And the more you do, the more impactful you'll become.
I definitely agree with you that small achievement, it might seem small at the moment, but if you look at it in a bigger picture, the small achievements accumulative are actually really big. I completely agree with you. Even though you had 3 girls attend, I mean, you made a change to these 3 girls. So, again, Sophie, I don't know what to say because hats off to you because that's such amazing work. So, I mean, I have one more question that, throughout your journey, do you have any funny stories and stuff that has actually happened? Like anything that's happened to you throughout your advocacy journey? Something really funny.
Ooh. Okay. I do have fun. Yeah, I do have. I don't know how funny it is, but it just it makes me laugh because of the math, the logic behind it. So this is a huge kind of flex, but I got invited to a premiere 2 years ago, and it was a Disney film premiere called A Wrinkle in Time. And the reason that I got invited was because it was about women in STEM, and they wanted young women activists to be involved. And because I was an advocate at the time, they invited me to the event. And so on the email I got, I looked through it and I was like complete and utter fangirling because Oprah was at the event. Reese Witherspoon, Ava DuVernay, who's an incredible director, Storm Reid, and I was fangirling so much. So I told everyone, "Oh I'm going to this event, and I'm gonna get to ask a question to the panel, and who's going to be on the panel? No one but Oprah, Reese Witherspoon, Storm Reid, Ava DuVernay." And so I went to the event. They told me when I got there I wasn't able to ask a question, so I was a wee bit annoyed about that. And I was like, I've told everyone that I'm going to be asking a question to Oprah. I can't come away with nothing. So we heard from the panelists before the show. So they did a Q&A before the show, answering questions from the audience, but I didn't get my question picked. And I turned around, there was another woman who was the CEO of Girlguiding who was with me. And I said to her, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. And I went down to the toilet, and as soon as I left the room, Oprah walks out with all her security team, and I got a photo with her and I got to meet her, and it was just like the maths behind that was incredible, that I walked out to go to the toilet at the same time that Oprah was leaving the building, and my night was just made. I didn't care who else I was going to see that night. I didn't even care about the film. That makes me sound like an awful activist, because I didn't my mind wasn't paying attention to the film. I was really ego driven and thought that it was the best thing of my life that I got a photo with Oprah. And it's on my Twitter profile picture and forever will be. It's an awful photo. It's really blurry, but it's my pride and joy.
I think that's actually a really, really good story. I mean, your question to get asked, and then in return, like you get to get a picture with Oprah. I mean, like I would.
It's better, right?
It's totally better. Like I would be so happy. Like I would have been like, it's okay if my question's not asked. At least I got a picture with Oprah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really, really good funny story. Thank you, Sophie, so much for being here today. I know it's really exciting hearing, about your advocacy journey and, the challenges you face, and as well as how you overcome them. And you've given, I think, the girls listening to this really, really good advice. So, girls, I really hope that you love this, and give Sophie a big round of applause. I mean, you're listening to this at home, but do give her a big round of applause, and thank you again, Sophie.
Oh, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. And just, please be confident that, you can apply for opportunities and get them, and just go for it. Be confident in your ability to succeed. You're all amazing.
Yep, no mountains too high, girls. It's always
No.
it's always right there. You think it's far away, but it's actually just right there next to you.
Mm.
In order to make the most impact, you have to listen to the needs and experiences of who you're representing. By this very act, you are encouraging others to tell their story and respecting their experience. You empower them to tell their story, as Sophie said. We all have to remember, especially at the age of division, we need to listen. So make sure when you do your advocacy project, you listen. As we draw the final episode of the series to a close, we'd like to thank you all for listening along and taking part in the social media challenges. We hope you're taking inspiration from all the amazing things our guests have done and the advice they've given you to start your own advocacy campaign. The final section of the IDG pack takes you through planning and delivering your own advocacy project. So, our social media challenge for you is to take a post or even post a photo of yourself embarking on your own project. This could either be speaking in an event, taking part in an activity such as litter picking, or even posting a letter. Get creative. We would love to see what you guys are all up to. By now, we hope you're feeling encouraged to go out and start your own advocacy campaign, having learned lots from our guests and worked through the activity pack. If you do still feel a bit nervous about taking the first steps, there are other tools out there that you can access to help you develop the skills to be a successful advocate. One such tool is the WAG's Advocacy Toolkit, the Speak Out for Her World, or even the 2020 International Day of Girl Pack, the hashtag Hear Me Now pack. Both of these are linked in the podcast blurb, so then you can go away and look at them. Remember, there are lots of ways to get involved in advocacy, and WAGs would love to see what you are up to. As we've discussed through this podcast series, the hashtag Write Her Story activity pack has a structure you can follow to deliver your project and lots of ideas to take it further. It also includes a template for you to share your case studies with us. This is set out in a form of an interview, so why not work together with a friend to complete it and pretend you're in your own little podcast? Please remember to send us your case studies at the IDG email, which is available in the activity pack, and tag us in your social media post. You never know, there might be a second series and you might be our special guest. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this series as much as we've enjoyed creating it. Finally, we would also like to take a minute to thank the amazing team behind this podcast, including our volunteer team of Camilla, Mariam, Barbara, Mercedes, Mino, Ferizoro, Anjali, and the WAG staff, especially Elsa and Maria. We'd also like to thank the music from bensound.com, and last but not least, our special listeners. Thank you for engaging in this podcast.